Hello and welcome to the Love Oracle. And this is Angela. Today I'm looking at heart awakening. Are you experiencing it? What is heart awakening? And ultimately, what I'm sharing is how healing hurts that are stored within your heart memories and within your soul is the way to open to a greater capacity in your heart to ride the waves of change, which if you're listening on May the 4th, 2020, we're going through a lot of change and it's not going to stop. So heart awakening is very much that journey. You go through a lot of change, you experience a lot of suffering, and ultimately you learn how to ride the waves of change and you actually go beyond suffering. So I'm going to share some things today that will assist you to get through heart awakening more quickly. And in particular, it's looking at how to heal those hurts. And I've been a master of healing hurts because I've experienced a lot of hurt. So I decided at some point in my childhood, I think I've got to find another way of dealing with it because I won't get through this if I didn't have a way of healing some hurts. And if you've been feeling a lot of hurts, anger, sorrow, misery, whatever, rest assured you're experiencing heart awakening. It can take a couple of lifetimes to be fully awakened. And what's fully awakened mean? What is that? I mean, it's such a esoteric concept. What it means on a tangible level when your heart's fully awakened is that you literally just flow through life. You're not entangled in hurts. When you experience a person or a traffic jam or a leaf on a tree, you literally are just able to experience it and to very quickly move through that experience to get the most joy out of it. So if it's a traffic jam, you could just be in the traffic jam without swearing at anyone, without fearing that you're going to be late or thinking about how to get out of there. You're just experiencing whatever you're experiencing, and joy can come, or thoughts can come that are actually quite liberating. They can give you new ideas, or a strange phone call might come through and you're able to have a connection. So things happen synchronously, and I can't understand how to spell that word or how to say it, but it's an extreme sense of things are happening around you rather than you having to make them happen. And if we look at relationships when you're fully awakened, what happens is that hurts will still come up or conflict comes up, but you're not stuck in that and you're not attacking the person, which is really hard for us to understand, I think, because we've raised in families where there's conflict and that's innate to our society for thousands and thousands of years. But I think most of us have seen it somewhere. If you haven't, it's because you've chosen to be in a life where you actually have to really go deep into suffering. And that is some people's journey. But all of us have seen, even if it's through romance or other movies that are fantasy-based, we've seen things that obviously somewhere in our collective consciousness we aspire to sharing and caring and experiencing people in a way that's beyond language, beyond time, even beyond space. We just feel people and we're connected. It does not mean, certainly does not mean in relationships that there's no conflict. It's not about happy ever after, because by being in our bodies, we're learning how to resolve conflict that can come from many lifetimes, many different experiences. We could be incarnated on the planet to actually help other people, or to help our family or a soul group or a certain difficult situation in our society. If you think about the medical people that have been supporting everyone with the COVID virus, they are actually incarnating to help. So they can do that and experience joy even if they are suffering when their heart becomes more and more awakened. And from my own experience with medical people and service-oriented people, they don't whine about doing their job. Some of them don't like it, of course, and experience a great deal of stress, but they get on with it. And Heart Awakening is about that. It's getting on with life. It's not getting stuck in feelings and emotions. It certainly does not mean that you don't have them. In fact, you could be, through your Heart Awakening process, extremely sensitive, as I am myself at this time. And it's a pain in the heart, and it's frightening at times. Just today I had a semi-trailer or a very large truck driving past us in the car, and I shuddered. I was freaked out by the sensation of this quite enormous truck hurtling down the street while an ambulance is coming in the opposite direction. And I couldn't understand why the truck was driving so fast, dangerously. It just shook me. It felt like a violation of what would be a respectful or appropriate way of addressing that there's an ambulance coming down the street. And was I overreacting? Yes. Yes, I was. That's my heart being too open or too sensitive to things that really have nothing to do with me. But it was an example of how, when you're going through Heart Awakening, certain things can feel more intense, can feel more sensitive. And in my experience through the dance, when I listen to music and I feel the music, the dance becomes a completely different dance. That's how life becomes when you're awakened. You actually start to feel multiple experiences in music, or the sound of an airplane, or the sound of trees brushing through the wind. So Heart Awakening is very much not just in isolation from the rest of your body or your chakras, but it's a specific awakening. It's about learning how to deal with those hurts, and I'm going to go into more detail about that and why those hurts are there, and why the Heart Awakening is a gift for you to start liberating those hurts. It's certainly not to push them away. That's why Heart Awakening can be a painful process. And for those of us in different experiences of the COVID virus situation, it's affecting most of the planet, if not all of the planet. And we're all having different experiences. So your heart is showing you at this time what are those sensitivities that need your help, your attention, certainly your nurturance, and going beyond nurturance, your exploration. What's this hurt showing you that's ready to be healed or ready to be just listened to? So Heart Awakening is a deep listening to what's going on inside your heart. So that brings me to clarify the difference between the physical heart and the spiritual heart. The physical heart, that's the thing that pumps your blood around your body, and it's boom, 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 boom constantly, which in itself is a miracle. And it sits slightly to your left of your chest, of your upper chest. So often, I might suggest that you put your hand on your physical heart. And you can do that now as you're listening, taking your right or left hand. My right hand feels more natural today. And you can put it there on the physical heart. Now, that physical heart is actually where soul memories are stored, and the soul lives in one of the chambers of the heart. I wonder if you can guess which chamber. I'm not going to tell you, but I've got intuition about where it sits, because I've actually had physical feelings in my physical heart. And they've sometimes been not so good. And that's what started to awaken me to what's going on. Why is my heart hurting? And I know I don't have actual heart disease. What's going on? So if you move your hand to the center of your chest, where your thymus is, or your sternum, And I use my fingertips, the tips of my fingers, just to tap there. Sometimes I do body talk, and sometimes I just tap there to activate the area. In Chinese medicine, they tap it to really get rid of toxins or to stimulate your immune system. And that's a little bit aggressive tap. I'm talking here about a gentle tap just to say hello to that heart center there. Well, underneath that center there is the heart, the spiritual heart, the heart chakra. So it's really key to understand heart awakening is a conversation between your heart chakra and that physical heart that goes boom, boom, and does a lot of other physical activities, as well as being a storehouse for the soul and soul memories or soul feelings or soul impressions. So your heart center, your spiritual heart that's in the center of your chest, it's not tied down to soul memories and all that other stuff. It's actually a channel for spiritual energy to come into your body. So when we do our namaste and we push the thumbs into the center of the chest, we're activating that spiritual sense of the self that goes beyond the soul, beyond the heart memories of pain or suffering. And if you feel that heart center, and you can use your prayer hands if you want with your thumbs into your chest, if you feel that heart center actually in the center of your body, you can also connect it to the other chakras that go through that center channel of the body. So I'm just going to remind people of the upper chakras. I'm not looking at the lower ones today because we're looking at how that heart center, the spiritual heart, can also be a channel for spiritual energy to come into the body from the universe, from source, from whatever you call it, from any name you choose to give it. But I'm going to give a few names to those chakras that may surprise you today to learn about the role of heart awakening. And from that heart center, you can just take one of your hands now to the throat chakra or the base of your neck. Of course, our chakras go inside the body and radiate out, so they're front and back, they're wheels of energy. So just taking one hand to the base of the neck or the throat area, and then taking another hand to the middle of your forehead or the brow chakra. And I'm using the palm of my hand on the brow chakra. It's quite relaxing, actually. And then taking another hand, it's like we're an octopus, eh? Another hand to the top of your head or just slightly above the top of your head. Here I start to think about belly dance and other dances where they put their hands above their head. They're really touching that energy of the crown, the top of the head. The crown chakra is there. And then you can just wave your hands much higher above your crown chakra like you're reaching into the universe, because beyond that crown is the eighth chakra, which is a transitional point between the physical and spiritual realms. And it's actually where 3 feet above your crown area, you connect to universal energy and you can call in universal energy. So if you can imagine either through the top of your head above your crown or 3 feet above your crown, a channel or a line of energy coming in from source, from a light or a divine energy, any sort of image that makes sense for you, coming down through the crown and all the way down to your heart center, where you can have your prayer hands again and your thumbs pressing gently into the thymus. That channel of energy is where you call in divine or universal energy. And it's extremely important if we want to deal with hurts, because it's the simplest way to get out of your stuff and start connecting to energy that's beyond your body and call it into the body. And that's what meditation does. It's what the teachers of meditation have been teaching for millennia, peoples. Like, I'm talking like aeons and aeons of time. So I'm going to give you a few pointers as to like the recent aeon that we're in, the recent couple of thousand years that we're in. But please, this has been going on for a long time. Meditation is not new. It's ancient. And the recent version we have are the major spiritual religious practices. So Jesus is the main modern teacher of the heart awakening. He's come in other forms before he incarnated as Jesus, but he's known to us as that Jesus guy that talked about do unto others as you would have done unto you. And he is a master of healing hurts. He does other things with healing as well. And you'll notice the iconography of a lot of Renaissance, medieval, and pre-medieval, Dark Ages, even and pre-Dark Ages, all the icons, they have his hands and the points in the hands and the chakras in the hands, and the hands are directly connected to the heart chakra. So he's a teacher of heart awakening, and you might have seen those pictures where he's got that flaming heart. Oh, be still, my flaming heart. So we talk about the heart a lot in romance and in love songs. And in my other work, I teach about how romance is connected to heart awakening. And all of romance is going to lead you on a journey of heartbreak. And I've got Elvis in my head now. I'm thinking Heartbreak Hotel. And all of those really sad songs that you can think of. What's the purpose of romance? It's to really start that journey of experiencing your hurts. Now, if we only think about the heart awakening and how to heal the hurts and not look at the other chakras, we might miss a few things. So I'm just going to feed into how the other chakras of throat, third eye, crown heal as well, but why heart awakening is so important at these times as we're dealing with the virus and as we go through a lot of change, because it's not stopping, folks. It's going to go on for a while, and a lot of us aren't comfortable with change. And one of the reasons we're not comfortable is because we carry hurts and they get triggered, and it can be quite confronting when an emotion comes up or an old hurt comes up, because you're like, where the hell did this come from? I thought I dealt with this. I've done therapy. I've done healing. I've done that. I've done meditation. I've done this. I've done the work. Yes, you have. But heart awakening is not a one-off thing. It's a life process. And I really want to emphasize it happens over several lives. And to be fully awakened is a lifelong journey. And I'm not talking about just the physical body life. I'm talking about all of your lives. And keep going, guys, because you can then, once you're fully awakened, you can come back to help others with their journey. And that's not of interest to everybody. It's not necessarily the destiny of everybody either. Some people will come back to be leaders or to be bread makers, or they'll come back just to experience the earth plane and have a good time. But believe me, the heart awakening is not a flipping of the switch. You can begin your journey and then it keeps going. And that's why these hurts are really important, because when they get triggered and come up, literally it's like a new layer is being released and processed through your heart. It's being polished. Your heart, your beautiful heart, is showing you what's ready to be healed and seen and awakened, what you're ready to wake up to, what you're ready to see. And it's so important in these times to start listening to what's ready to be seen, because if we go into habits of, when we're hurt, of blaming somebody else, attacking someone, putting something on social media because we think that would be a great way to get rid of our hurt, it really does create more negative karma for yourself, for the collective, and really doesn't help anyone. So heart awakening is about becoming responsible for your own hurt and awaken to it, nurturing, allowing yourself to feel it, maybe for the first time, and then giving a space to unravel that hurt, to see where it came from It doesn't have to be a past life. It can just be a feeling of ineptitude. Yeah, so what? Everybody has feelings of not being enough. And you may be experiencing that, and that's fine. But how can you actually call in some of those higher energies to help process it, to help see what you need to see in that moment, which can be a very internal process. It's not about a therapeutic or psychological process. It can be literally a beautiful way of journeying into your own hurt and seeing what is it trying to say specifically to you, like interpreting your own dreams, not going to the dream journal to look up what a symbol means. I found with my own dreams, I might write them down, and I stopped looking up the dream journal interpretations because really it was taking me away from myself. And I just write the images down from my dream and ask, what's that mean? And I'd go away from my journal, come back, or while I was through my day, I'd be awakened to the meaning. And it's such a more potent relationship with yourself. It's so beautiful. It's so incredible to have that own understanding of what your own hurts or feelings or emotions or symbols in your dreams are sharing with you, or in your heart chakra. So I always call on the divine energy to come in through my crown into my heart to get a clearer sense of how to feel a higher way of looking at what's been shown to me. I don't just sit in my hurt and expect understanding to come. And I'll go into a little bit more about how to do that process later. It's pretty much what I just described, but I'll walk you through it at the end. So the other chakras that are above the heart chakras is the throat chakra. And this throat chakra is where we really start to become awakened to our words and how we use our words. And the teacher Muhammad was the teacher in our modern times about this, about words. And even if you look at the Arabic language, which was the root of that spiritual teaching in the Quran, the word Allah, it has a beautiful breath to it. And anytime I look at the Quran or passages of the Quran, if they're spoken, the potency is in the text more than just reading for me. So his teachings around the throat chakra are extremely important to modern times about how we communicate, positively and negatively, because we must become aware of how we use our language and words, and also how we connect to the divine in that part of our lives where we use the words to invoke the divine and to connect to the divine, and how the divine can move through our words. So he was a great teacher about that through his own writing of the Quran itself. So then if we move to the third eye awakening was taught through our modern teacher of Buddha, and he was about insight and meditation. So how to use right ways of using meditation and connecting to the third eye to really distill and synthesize, extract what is that purpose of your own intent and your meditation and your perception or vision of how you are to proceed and be in the world. Not necessarily about what you do with your life purpose and all that stuff, but really about how you be and your right thoughts, your right behavior, your right actions. Not to get what you want out of life, but to get that spiritual enlightenment about how to be in life. So Buddha's a great third eye awakening teacher we have available to us in modern times. And then the Hindu tradition is our crown, which always makes me light up when I think about it, because the Hindu tradition, one of my teachers comes from that tradition, but he's very multiple cultural teacher. And the Hindu tradition has so many different manifestations of God. So it opens us up in the crown area to how God can be connected to us and how God can manifest in many, many forms. So there's a 1,000-petaled lotus. I'm not really good on my details with the Hindu tradition because I have a teacher who's very multiple cultural and very diverse. And that multifaceted aspect of the crown is to really start opening you up to how many versions of divine have come to you in your life. So Hindu practices and rituals are very manifold, manifest in many different forms. There's many different pieces to a Hindu tradition or Hindu ritual. And the repetition and the piecing together all those pieces really actually activate so many aspects of the crown chakra. It's incredible, actually. You can go into enlightened states just from the chants, but if you go to any of the rituals or experience the rituals, there's many pieces that start to bring you into a rhythm. And it's multifaceted, multidimensional as well, that crown chakra. So your crown as well is the meeting place between where the physical and the spiritual intersect, and literally where you enable spirit to move into form. But it's not like you're doing it from any will of your own. It's where you begin to go beyond form and you open up to what spirit has to manifest for you. The real meeting point in the chakras is that 8th chakra, that spiritual meeting point between physical and spiritual is 3 feet above your crown chakra. Now that tradition is taught through the esoteric teachers, which I'm not going to go into them. There's many of them, but they're not really invoked in the modern religions that we know of. They're not really explained. So the 8th chakra, I found out when I started working with energetic healing, and I was a bit spun out, to be honest. I was like, what were you, there's something else? Something beyond my body? Like, yeah. And it opens itself up to a lot of creativity. What we're moving through now as a collective is allowing us to see how we're all connected. So the 8th chakra is very much about how we, as a society, are connected and wish to move through these series of awakenings. So I love that, how I discovered in my life the esoteric teachings and how the 8th chakra blew my mind, because I realized it was beyond. In Carolyn Mace's work, she's got the 7 chakras and the 7 initiations, but here we've got the 8th chakra, which really is held by the esoteric traditions in both the East and the West. It's not really talked about. And that fascinates me, because it really means that in many ways, because humanity lost its capacity to connect to the divine effectively, and because we've got bogged down by a lot of funky stuff in our heart chakra, in our hearts, in our souls, in our hearts, that we needed to awaken the heart, we needed to awaken the throat, we needed to awaken the third eye, and we needed the crown to be awoken. We couldn't really access the wisdom of the 8th chakra. But it's really easy. All you have to do is start imagining it. If you have trouble imagining it or sensing it, I invite you to just play. I do this in my workshops. I get someone to have their hand about 3 feet above my head or another person's head. So it's not social distancing enough at these times, but 3 feet above that crown. And you just sort of get someone to hold their hand there, and you can start to sense if you can feel it. If you don't, it doesn't matter. It's just about playing and exploring. But what it does is activates your energy body, and it's a really fun way to see with your eyes closed what you can start to feel and sense. And please keep in mind that when you're going through heart awakening, you don't need to feel anything else except your heart and what's going on there. And heart awakening is not the path that everybody will follow. As you can see, different teachers came in for different chakras to support each person that needed to work on that chakra. So if you were born into that religion, that was because that particular chakra was of relevance to you in this life for you to start working with. And that may be the path for you to awaken. However, you may discover that you'll come to a different tradition later on to help support your awakening. So I've worked with heaps of clients with different religions, and then they'll come to Jesus. It's like, are you serious? Of having a come to Jesus moment, and Jesus never was part of their lives. I've worked with atheists, and they suddenly meet Jesus. I started doing podcasts on Anchor with my friend Patty 3 years ago. Well, 3 years later, I finally realized how easy it was to use Anchor to create a podcast. So I started my own, The Love Oracle. And I've just found out that you can use Anchor on your phone too. But for a computer person, Anchor is really user-friendly for me. It's simply the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free. There are editing tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or phone. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify and many platforms. Within Anchor, you can easily share your podcast to all the social media, and you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So why not download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.fm. So what's the experience of heart awakening when you experience those hurts? You don't need to have a come to Jesus moment to start the heart awakening. In fact, the heart awakening pretty much starts as soon as you start experiencing pain. That's the whole point of it, that those pains that were stored in the soul memories and that are transmitted through your heart get activated in our relationships. So as soon as we're even incarnate, we start picking up stuff. And when we start experiencing life as a child, even very young child, little child, you start to experience those hurts. In fact, when you come into the body as a child, your soul is actually more awakened than your personality. So it's very much those first few years that all of your hurts get activated. And that's the heart showing you in those times what is ready to be addressed in this lifetime. But you don't have the consciousness or the awakening yet to be able to nurture and support those consciousness. So ideally, your parents will have the consciousness to support you and nurture you to start dealing with it. And we all know that many people are born into this world without the nurturing environment. However, the importance of creating that nurturing environment for you to address the hurts is key to heart awakening. You can, through extreme suffering, also learn how to move beyond that suffering. It can happen because as you're experiencing the suffering of the hurts that you've incarnated to see, you'll actually get to the point, as I did, that, and this is more in my teens, I couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't handle myself. I didn't want to be who I was anymore. I just said, no, this is enough. The only way I got out of it, though, was by calling in the light. And I didn't know it was God at that time. I just said, I needed a way out of this. And the image that came to me at that time was a window very far away in a deep, dark well. And it was a very small window from my perspective because I was very far away from it. But it was that light. And I knew that that was the only way I'd get out of that pit of suffering. And it's an image that's been used, similar images like that throughout ancient times or throughout science fiction fantasy. You see that one point of light that is able to maintain your focus as a way out of the suffering. So these ideas are not just used in religious circumstances or spiritual awakening. They're used throughout humanity And they're the simplest way to start understanding that hurts are the stepping stone to allowing your heart to heal those hurts. I'm actually doing a seminar in the Lasting Love Summit with Life Mastery about how love can heal. And it's 3 steps for getting over the past to make love last. So those hurts that you've had from past relationships or from parents or with your children or grandparents or other work environment hurts or bitter situations, all of those hurts are stepping stones if you can allow your heart to be nurtured and supported to feel the hurt and actually allow yourself to see a path through it, not to be mired in the hurt. So heart awakening, for example, as a child, you might get a hurt and you learn how to stuff that hurt away somewhere. And then the hurt gets triggered when you're 20-something through some relationship. And you see it, but you don't have perhaps the readiness in your heart center, your spiritual heart, to address it. So you'll go into possibly demoralizing yourself, making you the person that's wrong, or attacking somebody else. And you might do both, because that's quite handy, isn't it? Attack someone else or attack yourself because you don't feel ready to address the hurt. You're not ready. Then you go on through life and you're experiencing more suffering and more hurt, and things turn out pretty bad because you're not allowing yourself to feel the hurt and you haven't been ready. Then you get to your 30s and you start to get a different way of approaching the hurt. It could be addiction or something else negative. Or you could pass it on to some children as well. Why not? Not a good idea. Don't recommend handing those hurts down to your kids because it just keeps the cycle going. So at 30, you start to see, well, am I going to keep doing this? How long can I keep doing this? And that's important sometimes with heart awakening. How long can you keep doing this to yourself or to others? So as you go through the decades, you have so many opportunities to start saying, I've not been able to feel this hurt for a fear of whatever, but I've not been able to. I've not been ready. And one of the things I've realized is that often people aren't ready to feel the hurt because they're not actually capable of understanding why. Why did I have to feel this way? Why did I have to lose a child? Why did I have to lose a relationship? No, it's very hard to understand why. That's a lot of my work personally. That's what I did. I had to understand why. And some of the years it took to understand why, for some of the things were worth it. That's what the heart awakening journey is. It's always worth understanding why. And that's why I ended up working with spiritual teachings, because they gave me a sense of why. Intellectually, it was never going to make sense. But from a soul perspective and from a spiritual perspective, I could understand why that hurt was there so I could overcome and let the hurt go. If I just sort of let it go and get over it, it would come back anyway. Heart awakening is actually going much, much deeper and to that soul level where you actually see it could be a past life, but not really. It doesn't have to be anything to do with past lives. It's just seeing what is the belief or the BS or the illusion that you tell yourself that somehow you must keep on being this bad person because that's who you are when it's not, or some other BS about why you should limit yourself because other people have it better, or because you're not enough, you're not worth it, you're not as whatever as other people. And they're very ancient and stereotypical beliefs around not being enough, but they're so common. It's important for all of us to go through this journey of heart awakening so collectively we can stop carrying this around for humanity, because what it does is it keeps humanity being very stupid and limited in its way of looking at problems. It keeps us stuck in our hurt, and it keeps us attacking each other because we're not allowing ourselves to feel the hurt and see what that deeper layer is underneath the hurt. And I'm not saying that heart awakening and facing your hurts is a pleasant and blissful, beautiful journey. It can be quite terrifying because you'll be forced to see things that you may have caused others pain. And this is one part of the journey that is really difficult. Oh, I've caused others pain, therefore I'm a bad person. No, you've caused others pain, so start becoming responsible for the way you share pain. It's like suddenly realizing as you grow up, oh, if I stop doing that, I won't hurt people. Yeah, that's all it is, heart awakening. But instead, we can spend decades continuing to hurt other people or blame them or criticize them, when really, actually, it's a hurt that we've not been responsible enough in the past and caused others pain. Once you actually start seeing, oh, if I just speak up, I won't cause anybody pain, you can change a lot of your habits around avoiding hurts. And it's extremely important because to go around with these illusions about how you're not enough and therefore you must behave in a certain way really creates false ways of communicating that then end up destroying our connection to others and pushing people away and also hurting others. And that creates cycles of hurt. So once you start feeling those hurts, it's the fastest way to heart awakening. And I've shared some things that start from childhood and then go throughout your life and get re-triggered. But the fastest way is to really sit down and do processes or do your own journaling, do your own processes with your own work, or find a teacher. It's the fastest way. It's the way I've done. I've released a lot of old junk, and I'm even going to burn some of my journals from my childhood because they're literally useless to me. That I carried that hurt around. I moved it from a few storehouses to other storehouses, and it doesn't have any place anymore. Those hurts are done. They're finished. And yes, there's other stuff to awaken to in my heart. But that's the beauty of working on the hurts. Once they're done, and there'll be more stuff that will come up. And actually what happens is your heart starts to become lighter and starts to see things that you thought weren't possible before happening around you, which then has a new layer of, well, responsibility, really, because once you start to see how joy can be manifest and shared, it's really important to start sharing it. It's important to start creating spaces where that can be nurtured and cultivated as well. So if you are experiencing hurt in these times, I invite you, especially from May this year, 2020 to October, there's a beautiful transit of Pluto, which is a small distant planet that has a lot of impact and potency. And these hurts are like that, like a little virus that can stop our lives and interrupt humanity for a good few months and few years. These hurts do that for decades. So it's a great time to look at those hurts and be gentle with yourself. Sometimes the only reason we haven't been able to look at our hurts is that we weren't kind enough to ourselves to do it. And it doesn't mean about ignoring what your hurts are showing you if it's ugly. It's really just saying, you know what, this scares me. I don't like this feeling, but I'm ready to be kind and loving to myself to allow that hurt to pass and show me what it's ready to show me. So I'll finish with a simple process. And if you want to find out more about this process with the hurts, you can join the Lasting Love Summit as well, which I'll put in the description. And it's really about when you're hurt or triggered or whatever comes up that's painful, it's allowing yourself to sit in that heart center in whatever manner you can. If you don't have a process, I've got meditations on YouTube that help you to sit and feel in that heart center. And in whatever manner you can is to connect to the divine or a light or a love that's greater than what you know. For those of you who don't believe in the divine, I just use a love that's greater than what you know now. And I imagine that it's coming in from above my head into that crown and through a stream of light or a channel of energy or just a line of light coming down into my heart chakra, and I'm calling it in. I'm calling that light in to the heart. And I'm asking for help to see what I need to see right now to allow this hurt to be healed, or just to see what I need to see right now to help me. That's the short, fast track version. I do a lot of other things with hurts as well, and you can find out more from my YouTube channel, Love and Relationship Coach. And keep tuned with the Love Oracle. Today I looked at Heart Awakening. I'm going to explore more about the heart in May, and I'm looking for any questions that you might have about love and relationships, and about enjoying the life and the love that you want to experience in your life and your relationships. So until next time, enjoy your heart awakening to who you are. And this is the Love Oracle.